I'm excited to sit down with you guys. Obviously, we're chatting as part of Livestock SA's AgRi-silience program, and knowing from an outsider's perspective and hearing a lot about what's happening over in South Australia, I think it's going to be really interesting to hear more about what you guys have gone through over the last couple of years, but more importantly, where you guys are at as a business and where you're heading. So thank you so much for sitting down for the Humans of Agriculture podcast.
No worries, thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Just to give our audience a bit of a take on where we are, maybe, Mark, I'll start with you. Can you just paint the picture? Where are we and how long has your family been farming here for?
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. So I'm a fifth generation farmer. So the McInerneys have been here at Riverton in the mid-north. So we're nestled between the Clare and Barossa valleys, very famous wine regions in SA. So we've been here for 5 generations, and where we are here at the moment, our farm is called Garryowen, and my grandfather started that it'd be 75 years ago. So he was one of 11 and took his patch of dirt and made it his own.
And what does it mean for you to farm in this area? Because we're only, an hour and a half up the road from Adelaide or thereabouts?
Yeah, so we're very lucky. When I'm speaking to people, especially people interstate, they ask where you're from. I sit there and talk about, how we're nestled between the 2 wine regions, as I just said. We're only a bit over an hour from the Adelaide CBD. We're a bit over an hour from the Murray River and an hour from the beaches on some of SA's famous Yorke Peninsula beaches. So we're very lucky in that regard. And although it's been a challenging 12 months here with much of southern SA, we would be in what you'd call a reliable area normally. So, yeah, it's rewarding. It's good.
I bet. And what about for you, Rachel?
Yeah, I grew up in the city and moved up to the country with my family. They did the whole sea change thing, and they put in a vineyard. And so I grew up at Auburn, not far away, and watched my parents start a farm and went to school here, met Mark, and went to university in Adelaide to become a teacher, and came back, and eventually we settled here at the farm. And we've been here since, living on the farm since 2011, I think. So, yeah.
And so you're still teaching a little bit today?
Yes, I am. Yeah. I ended up going back to uni and doing another degree in teaching when I had little kids. So I still very much enjoy the early years education. So I'm teaching at our kindy in Riverton, and I do that a couple of days a week. And this year especially, I've made a focus to find balance and just stick with teaching a couple of days a week so that I can calmly take on the rest of the roles that I have to do at home on the farm and just with being a mum and looking after 3 kids. And
so you guys have been back here for, call it 14, 15 odd years together. How have the last couple of years been for you guys? And I guess, I'll say further east, we are still in Eastern Australia, but further east we've heard like bits and pieces about South Australia, but I think, it's probably hard to realise like what it's actually been like. So for you guys, what's it been like the last couple of years, and how does it compare to the whole time you've both been here together?
Yeah, as I said before, you would call Riverton a pretty reliable area normally, and the last 24 months off the back of the end of 2023 cropping program, we had some really severe late frost. So our crops were well into grain fill and were frost affected, which certainly had a pretty big impact to our business. We probably came out of that not just too bad and rolled into 2024. And as I say, it's been the driest year on record. They've got records going back to 130 years, and it's the driest year on record. So while we were still able to produce a crop, which I think is just a testament to where agriculture's come in Australia, that we're able to produce what we were, it was definitely a big financial burden for ourselves. But as I say, many others to the north of where we are in SA, a lot worse a situation, and it's been ongoing for a lot longer. So.
Yeah, definitely in my role, I've done more cash flow projections and forecasts in the last 12 months than I've ever done. I feel like last year was a constant battle of looking forwards and juggling and making sure everything was going to work out how it needed to be, and having those constant conversations with the bank. I feel like a lot of the times I was coming to Mark with, worries about does our business model need to change? Should we have done this? Should we have done that? But in reflection, Mark reminded me that, this is a once in a, hopefully, lifetime event last year, and that, if we can come out the other side of this, it doesn't necessarily mean something in our business model needed to change. It was just something that we needed to go through and keep focus on what we could control. But yeah, there was a lot of stressful moments and sleepless nights, and just being vulnerable with the bank and saying, hey, what we've always done isn't going to work out this year. And I think once we had that first conversation with them, I remember the first time I brought it up, they said, oh, really? Okay. And then the next time I spoke to them about a month later, they said that they were inundated with phone calls. And I felt like, oh, that's good for us that we were ahead of the game. We could see what was going to be coming in the months to come. And the bank has been really good, and we've gone through that, and we're out the other side, and we're looking forwards to hopefully a more average year or above average year, hopefully, in our area.
I think while it has been challenging, Holly, there's been lots of lessons learned, I suppose. So it makes you really look at that business model and ensure that it is a strong model that you can use taking forward. So.
And where the business is now, how would you describe each of your roles within it as well, compared to, say, when you came back, you were teaching Rachel?
Yeah, so that has been the biggest difference for sure. So when I was teaching, I had little kids, so I was just doing relief teaching. It wasn't regular days. I'd get a phone call and asked to come in. And so I was really fitting in doing the book work, which is basically where my role finished back then. In amongst the kids, and maybe it was 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It was really frustrating. It was putting a strain on our relationship having to work that late at night, and the kids always saying, it's all you guys ever do. But come forward probably, 2 and a bit years on, I have taken on many other roles that I didn't know that necessarily maybe our farm needed until we started doing some training and learnt more. And so now I've kind of taken a couple of days a week at least to do the bookwork during normal business hours, and catching up with Mark each week to do our weekly plan. And we've really tried to focus on business during business hours, although it's challenging to change habits, and we are definitely still working on that. But yeah, mainly my roles now are HR, doing all the payroll and the job contracts and WHS and finance, preparing the budgets for Mark then to review, and doing the forecasting into the future, which is something we didn't used to do. And it has given us so much clarity into our business plan and our business model. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And yeah, Mark's role's changed a bit too.
Yeah, I think I've definitely had a few changes, Ollie. I was very much operational based, and while there's still a level of that there, I'm probably more trying to oversee the team, and I've tried to bring the team in and upskill our team to perhaps take some of that burden away from myself, and that gives me the time to sit down with Rachel a bit more and focus on some of those strategic decisions going forward. And as I say, set out some goals and plans for the future. But as we talked about before, the last 12 months, it's probably been more about working out, scenarios that are going to get us through the other end in a positive fashion.
For you guys, was there an instigator or a moment that got you to start looking more at outside help for whether it's different programs or just the team around you?
Yeah, definitely. So it was an email that came through from Craig Davis, our agronomist. It was a HR masterclass over on the York Peninsula run by Wattle, and I thought, geez, that sounds just what I need. Here I am doing the books and now starting to look at the employment side of things. And so I headed over to that, and one of the first questions was about the goals and the visions for the business. And I sat at the table, looked around to all the other women who were all sitting there going, I don't know, I just do the books. I don't know. And so I'm texting Mark asking, what's your business goals? What's your vision? And he said, make money, make some more money. And we had a bit of a laugh about that. And I left going, geez, that the content was fantastic, because obviously in teaching I'm going to PD all the time. And I thought, wow, that content was great. It was great presenters. But I wish Mark was there. And so spoke with the organisers afterwards, and she actually said that they were running another one in Clare, and there were going to be a lot more partners and families and teams going. So Mark, I don't know if it was willingly or not, but he decided to come along.
I think I decided to come early. Rachel came back from that Waddle day with a million questions, which was great. So when this next opportunity came up, I thought, well, there's probably there's some value in heading along with her, and hopefully we can nut some of the stuff out together. So
that was really the start. And then we went along. I did a financial masterclass. I think it was with farm owners, financial framework, and they sent us got to go to a 2-day workshop in Adelaide. Went to that and brought Mark along because it was free, save $2,000 or whatever the marketing was behind it. And we both walked away and were like mind blown that there was this whole world of things that we could be doing to streamline our business, make our business more profitable, more compliant, all these things. And around that time, because we were on a high from that, AgRi-silience was doing something just 5 minutes down the road, had posted, and we thought, all right, let's sign up to that. And we went along to that, and we met some other local farmers, and also got to meet Jeanette Long, who, after meeting her through that, has become a very vital part of our business.
And so when you look at that AgRi-silience program, what was it that was offered to you guys? And was it quite easy to sign up and attend, or was there still like a little bit of reluctance and thinking, oh, is this just going to be a couple of days away from the farm?
I think the opportunity was there. It was quite easy to accept. And for us personally, I think we could see the value in what they were offering. As I say, Rachel had done this previous PD and come home and pose some questions to me because she didn't know the answers. And in all honesty, I probably didn't know them either. You know, what is the vision and what's the 10-year goal and where are we going? And as she mentioned before, my throwaway line was, well, just to be as profitable as possible. But it made me really think, well, where are we going and what do we want to achieve? So I think those couple of days training really made you think about those questions and perhaps put some processes in place to maybe take that to the next level going forward.
It was great value too. I remember seeing the advertisement. It was like, I think your co-contribution of $500 and you got maybe $3,500 to spend on a professional in some way. And also you got some one-on-one coaching. And so it looked like a really good deal, and it was 5 minutes down the road. So I think that was another reason why we signed up. And it was just really accessible.
When you guys look at like the time it took for these things to start to become useful, I guess you started to have conversations around home, but also too, were you walking out of the sessions with a lot of energy, and then did it drop after the sessions, or like how did you keep, I guess, that willingness and want to create something different or do things differently with getting caught up in the practical side of just doing?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the old cliche of surrounding yourself with like-minded people, you know, but it is true. When you're sitting in a room with a group of other people that are all there for the same reason, the same vision, you do get a lot of energy from that. And we definitely found that with those couple of days of the AgRi-silience training. And probably coming out of that, it gave us a feeling that, well, there's probably more to this and something we could, take further. And I guess that's where we've then followed on with other personal development programs from that. So yeah, it's certainly given us the stepping stone to start that those business decisions.
And some of it was stepped out. Like I think before we left on the second day, we had to have kind of mapped out when were we going to have our first meeting, who were we going to engage as our funded mentor. And so you kind of had an action plan when you left, and that kept you accountable. And we had the coach or the facilitator, I can't remember which they called it in that sense, but they were checking in with us, and we had another meeting. I don't know, there was a gap between it, a couple of months maybe between when we met up again. So we had some homework to do, and I think that's the part that keeps you accountable when you know you've got to come back.
Yeah. And so moving on from there, the way you guys viewed yourself in the business changed a little bit. Rach, you were saying that it actually changed literally what you're doing day to day as well.
Yeah, for sure. I was very much at a crossroads. I'd done all the training in my job, and I was very, very passionate. And leadership was maybe an opportunity I was going to follow in teaching. But once I saw the opportunities in the farm, and not so much even opportunities, but requirements. These were things that if I was going to pass this business on to my children, like it needed to be up and running, well organised, well-oiled business. So everything I learnt, I soon was going, oh my gosh, right, I need to implement this, and I couldn't implement it as fast as I was learning it. So I did cut back in my teaching. And I think once I accepted that was my new role, I was a lot more comfortable with giving up some of my teaching, my passion, because I'd found a new passion, and that was setting this up for my children to be the best that I can. And I can't ask Mark to do this. It's new to him as well. He's got a lot on his plate. This is something that I can learn. And as more I systemised it, I actually have learned to enjoy my own systems and my own routine. So it has been a real big shift in my attitude towards what I was doing, as well as the roles I've been doing.
And what about for you, Mark? The way you view your day-to-day? Still a farmer, or do you see yourself in a different light?
I love getting out there and just, getting the work done. I think that's ingrained in me. It's something that I've got to try and make sure I don't get too focused on. We're probably lucky that we've set up a team that can cover off on a lot of those things. But, I do love getting out there and working alongside them and doing all those roles. But, I've definitely seen the value in coming back and working on the business and making those strategic decisions. And as Rachel mentioned, she's got a lot of passion out of her new role, and she's probably brought me into that and given me a bit of passion alongside her that, there is benefits to, doing that work, I think.
Do you think, I guess, by chance it helped? Not that I'm going to say times are enjoyable at the moment, because it's obviously bloody tough, but has made the investment you guys have made in yourself and the business over the last few years, things like last year, go, actually, you know what, we can get through it and the world isn't falling down? Yeah,
definitely. Ollie, I'll look at that. I think there's just so many things in farming that are out of our control, the weather, the obvious one, but then, you talk about geopolitical issues and tariffs and interest rates and commodity prices. There's things that you just get so bogged down on, but the reality is you can't do anything about that. So why try and focus that energy there, divert that energy elsewhere to things you can control? So I think while it has been extremely tough, I've been home on the farm full time now for 20 years, plus all the years as a kid working there. Last year was probably the most challenging year of the whole lot, but I feel like with the tools that we've gained over the last couple of years, we could see light at the end of the tunnel, and we've probably come out of it in the best space we probably could.
Yeah, and definitely with all the training we've done, we're always looking forwards. Like it's, what's your next 12-month goal? So yes, this is happening to me right now, but I'm already thinking about next year. And if I look at data, averages, all those things, it's not likely that this is going to happen again. So yeah, like Mark said, I can't focus any more energy on this. I just need to focus on what I can. So buckle down and do some extra work on the finances and work out, what can we control?
One thing I'm wondering, and I don't know if it's a stupid question or not, has doing this kind of work, and as you say, forgetting, or not completely forgetting about the things you can't control, but a lot of the conversations that even I have with my mates who are farming, it's probably 90+% of the stuff that is about things you can't control. Has it changed the conversations you actually are having in and amongst your social groups?
Yeah, it's funny, Ollie. That is very true. You've probably got me thinking about that. I think the go-to where you catch up a mate or you go and have a beer, especially at the moment, the first thing you're going to say is, "Oh,
bloody dry.
It's dry. When's it going to rain? Oh, what are you doing? How's the feeding going?" And a lot of that conversation revolves around those, which often are negative things. So, I guess that's just up to the individual and us to put it on ourselves to perhaps, try and look at it in a different way. And if you can take a positive spin or take some learnings from what's happening to you, we'll, try and pick up on those things and run with it.
Because I was going to ask you, following on from that, like for you guys, and you've talked a little bit about the initial moment at the Women on the Land session.
Yeah.
It was like, what are we actually doing this for? Has it changed your goal and what you guys are actually centering your day-to-day around? Like, what's the goal here now?
Well, I think for us, our main goal is we want to be able to pass the farm and the business on to our kids if they choose to do so, and make it that sixth generation if that's something that interests them. The reality is, Ollie, if they looked at how we were tracking a couple of years ago and the stress that was in our lives, I'm not sure that was something that they would want to come home to. So that's been a big thing that we identified. I probably was a bit slower to identify that because you're just so used to being bedded down in the busyness of farm life. But I've realised that, something had to change, and hopefully we're taking some of those steps that will improve that going forward.
That's exactly right. We didn't want to be the reason there wasn't a sixth generation, not necessarily the job itself being hard, but more so the kids living it as they grow up, seeing the stresses that it can cause. So, we've spent the last 2 years working on those skills. We're definitely still working on them. We're not perfect yet, but we've still got a few years to make a difference and show our children that, farming can be challenging, but if you have the right systems and people around you, it can be just as rewarding.
And it changes it from like a loss mindset, really, isn't it? Because I would think if you're thinking, if we're the generation that stuffs this up, that adds a lot of potential weight and pressure to what's already a challenging scenario. Whereas, do you think more about it? Well, let's enjoy the here and now, and what will be in a way as well.
I think that's something we're trying to improve on. Yeah, that is something, if I'm honest, that's played on my mind. This farm's been here for 5 generations. I don't want to be the one that, do something that it stuffs the business model up, or more so just that the next generation doesn't want to come home because they see the craziness. So, I think that's something that, we're hopefully trying to change and pivot from.
Yeah, I reckon on our goals that we've been working on, every goal, our 3-year goal, our 10-year goal, it all has life balance in it. Taking regular holidays, scheduling in family time on Sundays, making sure that we're not talking about work after 6 p.m. And our children actually created a poster and put it up on the wall in our dining area, and our daughter's very good at reminding us that it's family time. We're not talking about farm, not talking about the business, because obviously Mark's parents are in the business as well, and so it's very easy because we're passionate and we see that the opportunity's there. It is tricky to turn that off and focus on the now, but we are working on it.
An interesting one recently, we were on a family caravanning trip, and our daughter challenged us, let's not talk about farming for, I think it was an hour, wasn't it? And we got 20 minutes in and somehow one of us came back to something on the farm. So, it's something that you've got to try and work in, I think.
How did you guys bring the kids into this? Because also, like, I can sense the energy and excitement you guys have, especially around this kind of nearly like a reinvention of the business a little bit. How have you brought the kids into these conversations so that they're actually across what you're talking about as well, and also holding you guys accountable?
I think Jeanette Long is to thank for that. So we had a little bit of a meeting with her, Mark and I, one-on-one, and she brought it back to, Mark, you can't just work 7 days a week, and, your kids are growing up, and what are some things you want to do? Do you want to learn how to fish? Do you want to do this? I think we talked about getting a boat or learning something new, like challenging ourselves to spend time together. And so then when we came home from that meeting with Jeanette, I think we got the kids together and we said, right, we're having a little meeting. And I think Mark instigated, he got the butcher's paper out because Jeanette's famous for her butcher's paper, and he said, right, we're going to write down some family rules, and I'm going to spend some time, we're going to make a bucket list and of things we're going to do on family time. And yeah, like I said, you might do really well at it for the first couple of weeks and then it slips away, but it is still there. We keep coming back to it, and we know we can't change overnight. So, yeah. I
saw a scary stat, and I cannot remember it accurately, so I'll definitely include it in the show notes. But it was something like 80% of the time you spend with your children is up until the age of 15, and then after that, however long is the last 20%. I will clarify that. But it's insane, isn't it? Because it's also the time where you are probably at your most able to be involved and grow a business as well. So it's a compromise. How do you guys unlock that in your business? Has it been about bringing other people in?
Yeah, definitely. Look, that's been a challenge, Ollie. I probably feel over the last, our eldest son's 13 years, and some of the growth that our business has taken in that time has been great. But yeah, it comes at a cost if you're not keeping track of that. So I think working on your team and bringing the right people in who are, best suited to the roles that need to be filled, that can definitely help and lighten that load on both of us, really. So yeah.
You've also, Mark, when we first started all this work, he unloaded a lot of mental load. So they had a diagram of all the things you carry around in your head are like bricks, like the weight of everything, like the gate latch that needs to be fixed on the farm and the trough that's broken over there. Anyway, so Mark unloaded, I think it was over, it was 130 or...
I think I just walked around the farm and just, wrote down all the little things, not necessarily things that were holding our business back or affecting how we were performing, but just little things that you knew needed to be done. Some of them minute, but had to be done at some point. And I think I came up with 150 of them. So they're all rolling around in your head the whole time. So getting them down on paper, I remember that night, just this sense of relief. And we've been able to hang that list up in the shed, and it's been great. Our team, when they get a spare moment, they'll just start ticking some of those things off. So
so that has freed up a little bit of Mark's mental space, and also, I suppose, given us, because we've started planning monthly, quarterly, weekly, we can actually take some of those things off the list and schedule it in, like Tuesday, so-and-so is going to do X, Y, Z. So that's helped calm a bit of the chaos and given Mark some, thinking space, I suppose.
That's huge. That's
yeah.
But you don't even think of that. And was it literally as soon as you wrote it down, it was like, well, actually, now it's on paper, I could just start to write other people's names next to it, or...
Yeah, that's really what it came down to. We then scheduled, how urgent those jobs were, so when they would get done and who else could do them, who was capable of filling them or was best suited to their role. And yeah, it's been a big game changer. So
that's incredible. I want to ask you, we've mentioned Jeanette a couple of times, but so Jeanette was, my understanding, the person you guys chose out of the AgRi-silience program that you thought, let's have a session with her. What was the first session like, and what were you guys looking to cover with her in that initial session?
So Jeanette came on farm, and Mark's parents hadn't been to the AgRi-silience days, but we were always coming back and feeding back, this is what we've learned, this is what we're doing. And we'd spoken with Jeanette about really what we wanted to get out of this. So many times the conversations that we had were heated, I suppose, because everyone's really passionate. Everyone has different backgrounds, different values, different stages of life. And so, and different risk profiles is probably the biggest difference amongst us as well, because those later in life, might not have the same risk profile that we do. And so Jeanette was instrumental in setting up ground rules, and we actually asked her to come in and set up some ground rules for our family meetings, because we started the AgRi-silience program with ground rules for the all the participants that were there in the room. Yeah. And so she came in, she said, right, we're setting some ground rules. What's the goal for the business? And that was the long game. So I think once we'd cleared that, we're all here with the best intentions. We all have different values, and we need to understand that. No one's nitpicking each other, and no one means offence by what they're saying. They're just, maybe that's their communication style. So she was definitely instrumental in creating a harmonious family meeting, and so we got her to come quarterly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember when she was coming the first time, sort of having thoughts, I'm not really sure what we're actually going to talk about here. And as Rach just said, it was really powerful what she came up with, to the point where we said there and then, can we get you back quarterly and run our quarterly meetings? So that's been great, setting down an agenda and sticking to it, and we all sit down and we're all on our best behaviour, I suppose. So it takes the emotion out of it, and probably makes you're making decisions that probably are more relevant to the business rather than sometimes family emotions can get in the way.
Yeah, there was one big one. So the first meeting she was at, Mark had rocked up 2 days beforehand and told Kay and I, Kay's his mum, just walked in the house and thrown a quote across the table to us from New Holland or Vader's, I think it was, for a brand new air seeder and box. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is the first I've heard about this. Since when did you want a new air seeder? This, hang on a minute, what? No, we're not getting a new air seeder. And Kay was the same thing. Hang on a minute. No, we're not getting a new air seeder. And Mark was like, oh, well, we need a new air seeder, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so it was a bit of a heated discussion, and Kay and I had shut it down straight away. Jeanette comes in a few days later, run this meeting. We bring up the air seeder. And she said, Mark, before we start any conversation, I want you to tell everyone at the table the facts and the impacts for this new air seeder purchase. So Mark goes off, here you go, it's going to improve this and it's going to improve this and it's going to cost this, but it's going to do this and it's going to do this. And 2 minutes later, Kay and I are both nodding, going, okay, yep, all right. No, we understand. And he purchased the new air seeder. And it was as simple as that. It was just a different way of communicating. Mark didn't, necessarily think he needed to communicate with us, the details, the nitty-gritties about why new machinery.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I had all the reasons why that would be a vital piece of, for our business going forward. But yeah, you've got to be able to relay that information to people so they understand, I suppose.
Yeah. Have you found that, obviously, quarterly meetings gives the business a bit of a different cadence in the sense of, what's coming up, as maybe as simple as, and I'll kind of do this, there's my day-to-day work attire, whatever, if I'm just going and doing other things. But if I'm okay, actually I need to think differently today, whether it's trying to sit in a different location with my computer, whether it's go and have a coffee and just think strategically for a bit, or actually I want to make some bigger decisions as simple as changing my shirt. To be okay, we're actually trying to run a business today and not just go through the motions of every day. Have you guys found, is there other little nuances or things that you guys do in your business to think of it more as that you are here making decisions? You haven't said it yet, Mark, but I kind of know on the side, but you are a CEO of a pretty important and quite a big business with people employed. Is there other things that you guys do that, change that mindset of how you view yourself?
I think a big thing we've noticed is when we do our bigger annual planning, we try to get off farm. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really sure what it is. Only just being away from the farm, whether it clears your mind or clears the headspace. And we seem to come away from those annual meetings thinking, geez, we fleshed a lot of stuff out there. I achieved a lot. I don't think that would necessarily happen, in your day-to-day space. So that's been a big thing, I think. So
yeah. So with some of the other training we're doing with the farm owners deep dives, we go away. It's 2 days, but we always like to go a day beforehand and stay a day later. And it is that full business mindset. I'm not on holidays, and I always, Mark might say, let's go out for dinner, but we'll go out for dinner and also have a business conversation. We'll relook at our clarity action plan, and we'll look at where we're going and where our goals are up to. And after the deep dive, it gives us the opportunity to reflect on what we've just learned. What does that look like in our business? And even on the aeroplane on the way home from these opportunities, I sat, on the last one back from the Gold Coast, ended up sitting next to another person who'd been at the deep dive who I didn't know. And just the networking, the conversation, we had business conversation the whole way home. Instead of watching, Netflix on the aeroplane or whatever, we were hashing out plans. And it was just, I got so much just even on the plane ride home. So, it is a different mindset for sure.
I want to ask you guys about the business today, because we were chatting before we hit record, and I think it's something that I really want to talk to you guys about, because where the passion is, how you've evolved it off the back of some of these programs. But talk to me a little bit about, what's happening across the business now. What enterprises have you got, and what does it look like?
Yeah, so I suppose our core focus, Ollie, is broadacre cropping, so dryland cropping. We're growing wheat, barley, lentils, beans, canola, and we grow hay for ourselves and domestically, and then for export as well. alongside that, we have a contracting business that I started when I first came back from doing a university degree at Rosehill Ag College. Came home and probably realised, there's opportunities to grow the business here. How can we do that? Land in the area was pretty tightly held, so started a contracting business, and that sort of evolved over that period of time. And then we've got a Pole Hereford cattle stud, which we run alongside a commercial cattle herd as well. So we've been doing that for 3 generations now. This year, celebrating 70 years of that. So we're, I guess you could say, fairly diverse, which brings opportunities, but at the same time does bring challenges. One enterprise potentially robbing time and resources from another one. So I guess that's something over the last couple of years that we've really tried to work out, trying to really benchmark those individual enterprises and make sure that, one's not necessarily taken from another.
You forgot our latest venture, Mark.
Oh, no, I was just thinking.
Well, so
Yeah.
off the back of some bit of a collapse in the beef prices through sort of late 21, 22 into early 2023, we started up a direct beef platform. We sort of decided to use the brand of our Gary Owen Hereford stud and offer up direct beef sales sort of from a paddock to plate platform to customers locally. And it's just really taken off and flourished, which has been fantastic. So.
And right now, where we're sitting in the room, is there one that's your favourite?
I'd have to say that the direct beef stuff's been a pleasant surprise. We sort of dipped our toe on the water, not really sure where it would go, and it's just been unbelievable the response we've got. So
it's a business in itself, really.
Yeah, it's become its own thing. So I think in the last couple of years we're approaching 300 customers buying bulk beef off of us, and that ranges from the Clare Valley, York Peninsula, right through the mid-north, and just recently sort of hitting that Adelaide metro market. So I think there's opportunities to really take that to the next level down in Adelaide. People just love the story of the family farm and the clean green image that we've sort of got with the grass-fed and finished beef, and it's been promising so far.
And how did it go from an idea to a business?
Interesting. I might pass Rachel over that one.
I was actually wondering that the other day. I'm like, I can't remember how this got from an idea. And then I remember a work colleague saying to me, yeah, you should do it. Go for it. Coming home and then somehow learning how to create a website, creating a website, setting up online payments and credit card details, and then ordering coming in. Like, I went back and I scrolled back through Facebook, like, what were some of the first things I posted? Like, hey, everyone, we've got a cow for sale or something like that. But I think you had an idea, and Mark's very professional in everything that he does, and he likes to be serious. Like, he'll often look at my emails and then go, Rachel, you need to make that more, fluffy and put some stuff in it. Yeah, all of that sort of stuff. And I'm like, they get the gist. And he's like, no, if you're writing it from the business, it needs to be more succinct or whatever. So we were very straight off the bat with the website. That was the ordering process. And so
I think it started with a simple Facebook post, just probably went out to our friends and a few local pages, Ollie, like, we've got 4 animals, who's interested, and bang, they were gone. We're like, oh, well, we'll do that.
Page.
We'll do that again. We offered it up again and the same thing happened. So we're like, well, let's see where this takes us. And Rachel, as she said, was able to set up a automated online ordering system, and we've just critiqued that over the last 2 years and tried to streamline it as much as possible.
Yeah, and we got our own cool room early on as well, because that was a challenge for us. We were hiring a local cool room whenever we could, but that was limiting in how long the customers had. So we invested in a cool room. We thought, oh, well, if it doesn't work out, we can sell the cool room. Really, the infrastructure has been, and the outlay up front has been very minimal. We're just so lucky that we have processors, an abattoir and a butcher that processes everything for us 20 minutes away. And so, everything happens really locally. And so, it's been a learning curve. And I think the more questions customers ask, the more information I put out and make sure that, those questions don't need to be asked again. And that's made us much more efficient. And it's been working well.
Has it changed anything in the way, I guess, you're viewing your customers or the way you view your business in getting that feedback and, I guess, consumer perceptions and what consumers actually want to know versus maybe what, I'll say, us in ag think they want to know and what they care about? Or is it pretty similar?
There's a lot of terminology that even I had to learn. So we probably put a bit of information on our website about the terminology, carcass weight, dressed weight, what they're going to get. I probably worried that, it's not going to be like supermarket meat. It doesn't come, in a little tray. But we've been very open. Like Mark did an awesome little video on our Facebook page of him demonstrating his quarter carcass that we'd packed ourselves, and he went through all the cuts, and on our kitchen table we know what it looked like. And so I think for the consumer, they can see that we're real people. We also make a big effort to link in, things like even like this podcast that we're doing or a stock journal article to show them who we are. We're not just some people make believing to be farmers. You're actually dealing direct with us. So
I think when I really sit back and look at Ollie, I think we both get a fair bit of passion out of it, but we've always had that Paul Hereford stud, so we're dealing direct with customers and we've sort of got a brand that we're standing by and backing, and I think I like that interaction with a customer and sort of that end product that you're dealing direct with them. So to take that across to the beef side of things, I kind of enjoy it when they ask questions and they seem to show a real interest in our farm and what we're doing, and I think it's quite enjoyable, especially when you are dealing with those customers from, say, a more metro area that don't have a knowledge around the ag background and how that animal was produced. You can see that they're really interested, and it's a good feeling to be able to tell that story, I suppose.
Yeah, they look like they enjoy coming and meeting the farmer, like the whole experience. You can tell there's a smile on their face when they rock up, and I think they feel appreciated, and they are. We appreciate them coming and buying from us and supporting us. So it's a good circle.
Have you guys found as well? So you said 4 animals a month is what you were doing. Is it still 4?
It was 4, and then I think it's been a bit chaotic for the first 3 months of this year. We've done as much in the first sort of January, February, March this year as we did for about 8 or 9 months last year. So it's certainly stepped up to the point where we've sold out for a short period. I didn't think that would ever happen, but so it's a bit of a waiting game. We've got a list of customers that are sort of sitting there waiting for us to have our next beef run, we call it. We do a beef run each. We were doing it once a month, but the last few months we've sort of been doing it once a week. So it's been interesting.
It's been busy. That's something we've learned with doing more and doing it every week. It's taken a little bit of the joy out of it. So I think it's finding that balancing act of reward and time and profit and all those things. Like, yes, we could employ some more people if we wanted to do it every single week, but does that take away from Mark's joy and the happiness he gets from doing it? So it's finding the balance, I think, for us at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. I think some of the training we've done over the last couple of years, it's probably given us the insight to explore opportunities like this, but at the same time, really analyse, well, is this where we want to go, or is this aligned with our true goals and the goals of the business? So at the moment, I'm pretty passionate about it. I can see it going ahead in steps, and potentially you can bring people in to perhaps help run that business. But in the short term, we're still setting up systems and procedures and kind of finding our feet as we go. So that probably rests with us until we can perhaps take it to that next step, I suppose.
Yeah, so growing with, like I'll say, at a pace that you guys can keep up with amongst everything else, as opposed to just throwing something else onto the plate.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Especially when you probably consider, I still think our biggest constraint to our business as a whole is probably time for Rachel and I. So while it's going really well, it's still keeping a track on making sure that it's all lining up.
Yeah, and it's still just one part of our business. Like Mark said, cropping is still the biggest income producer in our business. And although this brings in a different kind of income because it's regular and it's every, month and that sort of thing, it's focusing on that it's not just always about making the most amount of money. Maybe there's a different way that we can achieve the same success and enjoy our business without just focusing on the profit side of it.
Yeah, 100%. If we fast forward 10 years from now, what do you guys hope your business still is offering you? And how? No, I'm going to hold my second question on that. So what do you hope your business is still offering you in 10 years, and potentially what does it look like?
I hope with some of the steps we're putting in place now, I look at what's the biggest risk to our business at the moment. It's probably something happening to Rachel or I and the business still continuing on. So that's a big focus for us at the moment is, well, how can we systemize things and how can we bring other people into the team to alleviate those risks? So I think, in 10 years' time, I hope that I'm still here running the farm alongside Rachel and our kids are thinking about coming home, or they might be off doing something else. But the fact is that if we weren't here, that the business and the farm was still running for that next generation if they choose to come. So.
Yeah, and look, to be real honest, is I would want balance. I want to, in 10 years' time, want to be able to wake up and look outside at the farm and not necessarily just see work, see the beauty and everything else, and enjoy living here and being custodians of this house at the time that we're here. Because too often I think I find myself looking at all the unfinished jobs and things like that. So in 10 years, I don't know, keep going the way we're going and implementing what we're doing and finding time to enjoy our success as well as, working towards our success.
I think we've got the tools in place to get there, Ollie. A lot of these things don't happen quickly. Like it's a slow burn. So just try and implement something all the time and keep improving.
I love that. And I think, I can definitely see just from meeting you guys today, but the excitement, you're both smiling as you're talking about the different pathways, and I guess the different experiences you guys have gone through in the business. There's probably a lot of farmers, and I think when we think about professional development, it can be like, could be a waste of time. I think you guys are a great example that it's not at all, and it can change everything from not just your business, it can change, the way the people you bring into the business, but it can also change your view about who you're actually doing it for and kind of why. What would you say to people who are on the fence, maybe haven't even potentially considered it, or they feel like they're potentially stuck in a rut? Like what would you say to them about investing in professional development like the AgRi-silience program?
I would say you don't know what you don't know. And I think farmers are, and this is Mark saying, but farmers are fantastic at being technical and implementing, new changes in technique in their operations. But business has changed and farms have got a lot bigger, and it's okay to still be learning as you're coming up. Mark's turning 40 this year. It's okay to start something new and start your, business management training in your 40s, because honestly, it makes your job so much easier. The clarity you get when you really look at your business and understand your why, it's really easy to make decisions. And so I just, suggest go along to something, even if it's local, the networking, go along to, your livestock SA regional roundups or anything you can get along to. Start getting out there and meeting people and listening to their stories and networking, because there's so much collaborative information that you can learn from someone else, or maybe, learn about another opportunity that's coming up in your area. So I'd say, get out there and give it a go.
Yeah, for sure. I think, there's plenty of opportunities out there. Just grab hold of one and go with it. Go in with an open mindset. I think that's the main thing. Leave the ego at the door. It's very easy to put up a barrier of, say, well, I'm not sure about that, or that's not going to work for me. So I think the mindset thing is the main thing. Yeah, be open, go on with a positive mindset, and you might be surprised what you walk out with.
Yeah, a great saying, and I rehash this all the time, is if you hear something that you don't necessarily agree with or you are wondering how is it even possible, instead of shutting it down, say, that's interesting. Come back to it. That's interesting, because then you're more open to it. Like, there's a bit of, ego sometimes amongst, in local, smaller communities. And the good thing about the AgRi-silience is it's, in our area, it was quite a broad reach of farmers, not necessarily people from your own little suburb. But because they had the, really good ground rules to start off with, everyone was really open and honest, and we all knew we were just there to do better for our own farms and our own businesses. And, yeah, it was great to have the support of each other and the facilitators.
Yeah, well, Rachel and Mark, thank you so much for sitting down. I think there's going to be so many people, obviously, in South Australia here, but also I think others who are probably in similar boats where maybe they're unsure around where the focus should be or what their business potentially looks like, or even, could be really struggling about, well, what's it actually for? It feels like they're just grinding away at these different times. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk about your experience, because I know it's going to be far-reaching, and the beauty of this platform is it might be 5 years from now that someone finds this conversation and it's exactly what they're looking for at that point in time. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, Ollie. Enjoyed it. Cheers.
Thank you, Ollie. And that was exactly the reason why I was hoping our story could maybe help someone who was, not yet to start their journey. But I think, for any couples out there, if there's one partner that's predominantly more farming than the other, take the other partner along on the journey, because it honestly will make such a change to your relationship and the dynamics. They don't have to have an ag background. Obviously, I didn't, and we've somehow made it work.
So I've got one final question. We all do talk a lot about in ag about the importance of sharing our story, and I think you guys have kind of just gone through it for the last hour or so in terms of talking about yours. I asked you at the start how you're feeling for the conversation. Flipping it a little bit, but how are you feeling after talking about your different experiences and kind of putting it out there as well?
I feel really positive, and I did say to Mark it might be a really good reflective conversation, and I just I'm glad you asked those questions, and I'm proud of where we've come.
Yeah, it's been an interesting conversation, Ollie. I've probably enjoyed it. I was a little bit hesitant, to be honest, at the start. Wasn't sure how to handle it, but it's probably made me think, well, gee, we have implemented a lot and we've come a long way over the last couple of years. And I think that's the key. That is something we do try to do, is to actually write down and acknowledge the wins that we have put in place, because it's probably easy just to get stuck in work mode and push past them. So, yeah, it's been great to look back and see the things we've put in place.
Well, maybe we'll put something in the calendar for 3 or 5 years' time.
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
Keep us accountable.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Thank you. Now, they do say that feedback is a gift, and it's something that we absolutely love to have here. If you want to flick us a message, send us one on your favourite social media app. We'll get back to you. Otherwise, if you'd like to, please rate and review. A 5-star rating or a little bit of feedback always helps us continue to make the show better. And we have the conversations that matter. Enjoy your day. Keep smiling. We'll see you soon. Bye.